Welcome to the Career Marketeer, the podcast where we learn from leaders in the digital marketing industry. In each episode, we dive into the unique career journeys of marketeers and explore the pivotal moments that shape the leaders behind the job titles. Whether you're just starting out or planning your next big move, this is the space to discover how others have built, pivoted, and future-proofed their marketing careers. We go beyond the highlights, uncovering the highs and lows, the lessons learned, and the secrets behind their success. I'm your host, Louise Helyer, marketing recruiter by day, podcast host by night, and today's episode is one that you won't want to miss. I'm joined by Jade Arnell, founder of Rebellion Marketing, and now the force behind her new venture, Marketing Rebels. Jade grew a digital agency, Rebellion Marketing, from a solo venture to a £1.5 million agency before selling the business in early 2025. In this episode, we're going to dig into the full story behind the scenes and talk about the next chapter. So, Jade, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you on board. So obviously we've known each other a fair while now, and I've followed the story of Rebellion Marketing, but I'm just really keen to uncover how you got started in marketing and your passion for building a digital agency, really, and what it takes to be that kind of individual.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll take you right back to the start, shall I? It seems like forever ago, but actually it wasn't that long ago, to be fair. It's only 6 years, just over 6 years since I started Rebellion. But I got into marketing by pure luck, which I think a lot of people did. Well, luck, can we call it luck? Maybe not luck. I don't know. Depends how you feel about marketing, I guess.
You fall into it. That's always the phrase.
Just fell into it. So basically, I started out in the apprenticeship world working for what was Vosper Thornycroft at the time, which is now Babcock International. And I worked in a team that delivered customer service apprenticeships, like team leader type stuff, retail, that kind of thing. And I kind of found a passion for that early doors. Like I really enjoyed, delivering training and learning to people and kind of getting to grips with the apprenticeship world and further education. So I did that for a period and then randomly went to work in telecoms. And then after I did that, I left there and sort of realized that everything I was doing that I enjoyed was sales and marketing was the piece that I really enjoyed. So I went off and actually started my own apprenticeship provider, which I don't know if anyone knows that, but there you go. So I did that first, and that was actually fairly successful. So I did that with a recruitment agency based in Southampton. Well, they've got places across the UK, but I was in the Southampton office with them. They were looking to do construction-based training, and I wanted to do the more business type stuff. So we kind of joined forces and launched a training provider. So I did that for a few years, but again, my sole role within that was growing that business, the sales, the marketing, making sure that everything was kind of where it needed to be and growing nicely, which I did. And then we got hit with the levy. So I don't know if you know much about apprenticeships, but the levy is essentially anybody who has a pay bill over 2 million. That might have changed now, but at the time it was pay bill over 2 million, had to start paying into a levy, which essentially meant they were paying for their own apprenticeships. And at the same time, they brought in a payment for smaller employers. So previously it was completely government funded. They then brought in a 10% charge for smaller employers. So at the time, I think we had about 200-ish learners at any one time. So, we're decent-ish size. And I decided, actually, this isn't going to really work out because there's so many other big providers. Just, how am I going to compete with the likes of Learn Direct at the time, which obviously they don't exist anymore, but they were a huge provider. I thought, well, the levy employers are just going to go to them. And I felt that the smaller employers would probably pull away more because they would then have to contribute funds themselves. So I then went to work for someone else as their sales and marketing director, another training provider in Fareham, who are really good, still kind of operating today. It's actually partially owned by Theo Paphitis and his brother Marinos Paphitis, who's a really nice guy. So I worked with them for quite a period. And then whilst I was doing that, I was like, do you know what? Actually, everything I'm doing here is sales and marketing. Again, obviously that was kind of my job role there. But it was like, is it the training that I'm passionate about, or is it the sales and marketing? And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to try again and go on my own. So basically what happened is I met with a friend of mine, Laura, and she was working internally elsewhere as their marketing manager, and we got pissed one night basically and we're like, oh, all these people trying to sell marketing services, they're just shit. They try and pull the wool over your eyes, etc., etc. I reckon we could do a better job. So that we decided that we were going to launch Rebellion, and that's what we
Brilliant.
did. So
Wow.
yeah,
So it was
after being
basically a drunken mistake.
pretty much, yeah,
There we go. That's
pretty
the
much,
episode wrapped up,
yeah,
everyone. Thanks for joining.
yeah, yeah. It was interesting. I was we launched this thing it was 2018 December. I think I'm getting that right. Yeah, December 2018. We went, yeah, we can do this, take over the world, we're fucking brilliant. Obviously not having a clue what we were doing. So yeah, we set up the website, got it launched on Company's House, all the basic admin stuff, and then basically did fuck all for an entire year. Sat on it. I was still working where I was, she was still working where she was, and we just didn't do anything. We were just
Yeah.
like, whatever. Then it got to like the December the following year, so 2019, and we were like, do we actually want to do something with this? Because it's only a few quid, but things were coming up for renewal. Do we want to like continue with the website, renew the domain, like all of these kind of things? And back then, it was only like 2018 we set it up, but it was so much easier to get a business bank account and all that kind of stuff. Now, fucking nightmare. But then it was piece of piss. We were like, can we have a bank account? Yeah, no problem. There you go. Sorted. So we had we had everything set up, ready to go. And we were like, yeah, do you know what? Let's give it a go. And Laura, about a week later, went, I've quit my job. I was like, fuck. Okay, shit. Right.
Serious
So
now?
yeah, so I was like, all right, we better fucking start moving then. And so I quit my job as well. So we then both had two unemployed people going, shit, now what do we do? So we sort of went gun ho on it and went, right, okay, let's get out to as many networking places as possible. Let's do everything, basically. Everything we could do for free, because we had no money, either of us, like zilch. So that's what we did. And then in March the following year, so like literally 3 months later, COVID hit, and we got locked down, and we were like, shit. So up until that point, we're doing lots of networking, going to meet people. We did like and signed up for like a hot desk in place, so we were like interacting with other small business owners, all of those things to try and kind of get the brand awareness out there and all of that. And in COVID, and we're like, oh, now what do we do? Because we can't
Yeah.
do those things, so we're going to have to think more digital and sort of spin into a digital agency rather than a traditional marketing agency. So that's what we did, and we went really heavy on LinkedIn, and we're like, it's free. That's essentially where people are networking now because they can't meet in person.
Yeah.
So let's put all our efforts into seeing what we can get from LinkedIn. So that's what we did, and actually we grew fairly well over that year, where there was lots of people wanting small one-off projects to get them from the position we were in, where they'd done lots of offline marketing, to go, shit, we don't have any digital presence at all. Can you help us? So we picked up like a fair amount of business, and started to kind of grow quite nicely. And then in year two, so we're now 2021, so it's probably about 18 months roughly after we first started, my business partner decided she didn't want to do it anymore. So she was like, it's not for me, it's too stressful, etc. Don't really have the passion for it as I thought I did. Like, I'm off. So I believe she's now in the police force. I haven't spoken to her for a while, but I think she joined the police force.
Different.
Very, very different. And so off she went, and I was like, yeah, no problem, I'll buy you out your shares and all that kind of stuff. Very quickly realised I didn't have any money, so that was problematic. I was like, yeah, no worries, I'll give you some money. Shit, yeah, I don't actually have any. So then my husband was like, oh, look, I'll buy the shares and be 50% shareholder, and then we'll go from there, see what happens. So that's what we did. He continued at where he was working and wasn't really involved in the business at that stage. And I just put everything into, right, let's hire some people, let's get this growing. I'll focus on sales and marketing because that's what I do. And everything else, I'll have a team to start passing work to, so I can effectively grow the business. So that's what I did. So we didn't have loads of investment. It was probably about 20 grand, but it allowed me a small amount of time, basically like 3 months, to pay people for me to go, right, I've got 3 months to sort it out, get my ass in gear and get some business back through the door so I can pay everybody on a continued basis and grow the business. So that's what we've done. Luckily, I was all right, and I managed to make some sales
Nice.
and grow the business. And then essentially, so that's year two, and then kind of from there, we've we've just grown and grown and grown and grown. And everyone asks, oh, you must spend loads on paid advertising, you must do, all of this. No, we don't spend any money on paid advertising. There is a small budget now, or it might not be now, I don't know. But until for the last probably 6 months before we sold, we had a paid ads budget running. Prior to that, it was all inbound organic leads that we were getting. So majority, I would say, especially in the early days, so the first sort of 2 to 3 years, it was all LinkedIn, almost 100% LinkedIn organic sales. Yeah, so we grew at the point when Andy bought shares in the business. We were doing probably around 10 grand a month, something like that. So probably just over 100 grand a year. That was about it. And from that point to 2024, so last year, we took it, so that 3 years basically, we took it from 10 grand a month to 1.5 mil. So
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, a lot
Brilliant.
of graft basically.
Yeah, definitely. See, you said that during the early stages of growth, like you said, it was all very much in person, meeting people at events and so on. You had to sort of
Yeah,
switch that to be more present online digitally. Do you think, with COVID and the changing landscape of things, do you think that helped in those initial growth, sort of redirecting your approach to let's become present
yeah,
online and digital and create that
definitely.
presence?
Yeah, definitely. So really I guess my skill set was always more creative. So, creating graphics, graphic design. Yeah. So yes, I massively had to pivot myself because my bag was really the creative piece. So I kind of was working quite hard on social media and all of those kind of bits, but my focus was let's get out there, let's do some events, let's go and see people, let's do some creative, pretty graphics, which I still love all of that now.
Mm,
But yeah, I very quickly learned to go, actually, marketing is far more data driven and about, a digital presence, ROI, let's see what we can get back on it. It's not just about, I wish it was, but it's not just
yeah,
about let's have some pretty graphics somewhere, let's have a nice stand design, like all of that, which I was far
yeah.
more used to doing. So
Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
I learned a lot in those early days, a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I still think today there's 100% a misconception of what marketing is. Now that we are essentially in this digital world where nearly everything is more or less bought online and everything's geared to what we can Google, it's just endless. And now we're sort of branching out to so many avenues like
Yeah.
social and so on. So it's just, yeah, it seems to be like an endless growing a variety of channels that people can, market themselves online.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's crazy, really, what the difference is from where we used to be to now yeah, it's insane. And we've got so much more noise to contend with. So I do wonder if there'll be a pushback to going more offline again. People are wanting, more connection, more human experiences, aren't they?
Yeah,
They've been bombarded, I think, over the last few years with digital because of COVID. And now I think very much people are wanting to go to events like the last one we done where you were there as
mm,
well. In comparison to the previous years, it was really, really busy,
mm,
and lots of conversations happening. Whereas previously, after COVID, there just wasn't as many people wanting to go and interact with humans basically.
yeah,
So it's quite nice, I think, now that is becoming more of the norm, that people are back out and about again.
yeah, definitely. And I think from that event that there were businesses from all over the country. Really, it wasn't just sort of local events. There were people are sort of making the effort to travel across the country and go to these big city marketing events. And I know that's something you've done as well. You've sort of travelled to these, not just go to local events, but reach out far and wide.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When we launched Rebellion, we were looking really at being very local. As I said, we met with lots of local businesses. We did a lot of networking. We went and sat and had like hot desking so we could meet lots of local businesses. But once we grew a little bit, we sort of very quickly realized that national was probably better for us, particularly
Hmm.
as we went digital, and LinkedIn was our sort of main driver for inbound leads. We found that actually there was people across the country wanting to work with us, and we were able to like expand quite quickly doing it that way. So yeah, it was quite nice. The growth from that was incredible. So I definitely recommend to anybody to, if you're not on LinkedIn and you're not using it properly, you're missing out hugely because there's so much business to be had on that channel. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, brilliant. So I think that's something we've discussed in our last episode as well, about sort of going freelance. I mean, the power of LinkedIn and building up recommendations, is that something you've looked at doing as well? Sort of, do you find that there's a lot of influence by getting those recommendations?
As in the direct recommendations on LinkedIn, or just people recommending you to others, sort of
Yeah,
thing?
when people
Yeah,
write a
yeah.
review on your profile, that sort of thing, does that
Oh,
have
okay,
much
yeah, yeah.
value, do you think?
So, if I'm honest, no.
Okay.
No, I don't think I've got hardly any recommendations on my LinkedIn profile. Back in the day, I had a few, but I don't really ask for them anymore,
Yeah.
because
If
we
you don't ask, you
switched.
don't get.
You don't, yeah, yeah, and that is 100% true. You don't ask, you don't get. I think if you're going to use them and direct people to them, then 100%. Particularly if you're looking for a particular market. I don't know. Say you're trying to break into retail. You've got one really good retail client that's like, I don't know, IKEA, for example.
Yeah.
If you've got a review from them or recommendation from IKEA sat on your profile, that's a trust indicator, right? That's 100% potentially going to push the needle to, yes, I want to work with this person.
Mm,
But yeah, for me, because most of what I did early doors was definitely personal branding, really. And when I first started out, I didn't really focus on recommendations or anything like that. It was more about the content I was putting out, who I was actively connecting with, and then who I was reaching out to, which I hate that. It's a very corporate word, but you know
yeah.
what I
Yeah,
mean.
for sure.
Yeah, and most people hate. They're always like, you shouldn't message people on LinkedIn. But that's how you get business.
Yeah, of course. What's the point? What's the point in the platform and doing
Exactly
this?
that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of, dare I say, like the Karens of the world who say, this isn't Facebook, this isn't this. But something I've noticed
Yeah.
with you on definitely on LinkedIn has always been that you're very personal, very open. You don't just talk
Mhm.
about business. You've always sort of talked about your personal life. And does that
Yeah.
have that sort of influence? Do you think in sort of growing your personal brand?
Yeah, I definitely think yeah, it's interesting when you say about the personal brand and that I share a lot of personal stuff on LinkedIn, because I'm actually a very, very private
Mm,
person, and most of the stuff that I share is only what I'd want to be shared. So a lot
yeah,
of people say that to me, oh, like I feel like I know you and blah blah blah.
yeah.
If you actually read the posts that I put out, there's nothing really that personal on there at all.
Mm,
Like, you wouldn't know about my day-to-day life or my family, really. There's stuff about my children on there when they've done something that I'm really proud of. But there is a real fine line between oversharing, I think, and
yeah,
letting people right into your life and who you are. Like, I'm not an influencer, right? Like, I think LinkedIn's
sure.
a very different platform for that. And so there's, yeah, a fine line between that and being personable enough that people find you relatable, they want to work with you. It is tricky, but it definitely does help with sales and getting people through the door and that brand awareness piece. So I
Mm.
definitely think if you're looking to, you're just starting out in business or you're trying to grow, LinkedIn is a good channel for that from a personal perspective, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I remember a post you put out, which was really interesting about how you put out one personal post which had gone viral, like millions of likes
Yeah.
and followers, but it didn't drive you any business. But then the follow
Yeah.
up posts that you've done that have offered some insight about the work you do, and that
Yeah.
results in an inbound lead. So as much as
Yeah.
these personal posts, it could be something about children
Hmm.
graduating or so on. They ultimately they're lovely, and you might get that kind of, they might boost your SSI score on LinkedIn, but it's the work related, what can you offer a business that gets the results ultimately.
Yeah, exactly that. And I don't think it really matters how big your following is either. Like, I know people that have got, 100, followers on LinkedIn and their businesses are failing. They've got no leads coming
Yeah,
through the door and it's all a show. It's all, look what I've got, look what I've achieved. And they've actually achieved fuck all. Like,
yeah.
and it's not right really that people
No,
do that, because it's just false. Like, and
yeah.
actually you don't need to have a big 100,000+ followers to get business. Actually, you need to define your target market, understand who you're connected with and who you want to be connected with, and post stuff that they're going to that's going to resonate with them and lead to some sales, right? Like,
Hmm.
that's it really. So yeah, you don't, if you need 100,000 followers to get a business off the ground, then you're doing it wrong, in my
Yeah,
opinion. You
absolutely. It's
need,
quality over quantity, really,
yeah,
in that respect. Yeah,
definitely.
I think everyone's got different views on LinkedIn, and like you say, I know some people who barely touch LinkedIn,
Mhm.
have zero personal brand, and are really successful. So,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
could, if you use it and use it right, great. But if you don't,
Yeah.
then you can still do well. So it's a funny
Absolutely.
old one. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
if there was somebody who was potentially thinking of starting their own agency, and they were using their LinkedIn but maybe not getting the traction, do you think, would you advise that as a starting point if they really wanted to build that personal brand?
Yeah, I think it's definitely for building personal brand and for getting those first, especially in like the first couple of years, getting those first connections through the door, getting the messaging right. And even if you're spending most of your time offline, so you are doing networking events, meeting people, blah, 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 blah. Actually, if they've then got something to go and connect with you on LinkedIn, they're then continuing to see that message, continuing to know about you, your business, whatever. From that perspective, it is really strong. But you're absolutely right. Like, you don't need it if you've got a strong network anyway, and you're willing to go and put yourself out there and go to events and meet people and all of that kind of good stuff. Then you don't necessarily need it. Just makes life easier. It's another source
Yeah.
of leads coming through the door. So yeah.
Of course, yeah. It does take it is a bit of an investment, and I think that if you choose to use that investment, then it can be a game changer. But yeah, it's just something you've got to
Yeah.
maintain, really. But
Yeah,
I
exactly
mean,
that.
when it came to, you mentioned about how you decided to grow the business and you had the funding to hire people. What was the sort of pivotal reason to take that next step and bring hire into the business? What influenced that?
I think just pure ambition and drive. Like, I've got problems because I'm just constantly, everything I do is like, right, what's next? What's next? I've
Yeah,
never seemed to be content with just, okay, we're at a nice position now.
yeah,
And actually, there was a period, probably like year 4, where I was like, actually, the business has probably more than doubled its turnover. We're doing well in terms of stuff coming through the door, but did the stress, like, I was probably earning about the same as I was in year 2 when we were only doing 10 grand a month. I was like, is this actually worth it? But the more you push on, I think everybody goes through that stage, and that's where people either give up or they go, nah, I'm going to push this on and get to the next level. Because once you've passed that little bit of that horrible threshold where you're working your absolute nuts off for what seems like peanuts, where you could have been earning more as just a freelancer or whatever. Once you've got past that, your earnings do become more. You can have that lifestyle where you're like, actually, I'm going to take a couple of days off today, or I'm not going to work this morning. And you've got a team around you to bounce ideas off and all of that kind of good stuff. So but yeah, I think that's probably why I wanted to push on through that bit. But initially, it was just the drive to go, right, what's next? Where can I take this? What can I do with this? I found I've always found business generally quite exciting because I'm sado.
No, not at all. I mean, going back to, I think another post you put out was that you've obviously had a lot of influence from your family who have all been business founders as well. So
Yeah,
maybe it's just in the core of who you are and your background, and you've seen
yeah.
family do it. So yeah, why not yourself?
Yeah, I think so. And I think also I didn't realize until I was older. God knows how I didn't know this looking back on my life. But I was diagnosed with autism and ADHD last year. And I think that is a huge part of why I struggle to not be a leader. So when I'm working with other people, if this is a really bad trait, I do not recommend this. So,
Yeah.
but if I'm working with other people and it's their business or their, leading it or whatever, and I don't agree with the way that they're growing the business or making change or whatever they're doing, I find that quite frustrating as a person. It makes me want to go, right, give that to me. I'm going to sort this out.
Yeah.
Which isn't great, but what it does mean is that from a business perspective, like, I kind of knew that I needed to work on, like, do something for myself and be the flag flyer and be the one at the front, sort of leading the way. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, because I suppose that there's a question that maybe in the early stages, particularly when the other founding partner left, could you have just become a marketing freelancer and just
Yeah.
gone on that venture? But it sounds like you identified that you didn't want to do that. You wanted to sort of build
Yeah.
something a bit more of a foundation. You wanted to bring people to
Yeah.
work with, and not be that independent, I suppose. And I mean, I guess
Yeah.
is that, would you say that's like a more of a personality trait that you need to have if you're going to seriously launch a business?
Yeah, I think if you want to seriously launch a business where you're employing other people, you you have to have trust, is what I would say. You
Yeah.
have to, the one, or well, I said the one mistake I made, of a lot of them, but the biggest mistake I made, I think, early doors, was not allowing other people to take the reins in their specialism or their area of expertise. And that is
Mm,
how you get burnt out. So you do have to go, and you can't do it all, and it will hinder your growth if you don't, let other people just do their job, basically. So it's you definitely have to have that trust element. Make sure you hire properly, make sure you get the
mm,
right people on board that can do those roles, and not micromanage people. Like, if you sit there on people's back all the time, or, well, I'll do that, or they never grow or learn themselves, and therefore they find that their development is hindered and
mm.
will either move on elsewhere, and then you just end up with churn of staff, and it just ends up a nightmare. So yeah, you definitely got to have that trust, and that, okay, right, I'm going to step back from this and focus on what I'm good at. So I am a massive believer in hire people that are better than you. So
Mm.
every single member of Rebellion Marketing, every team member is better than me in what they do. Like, there is, not a freaking chance that I could level up to some of their skill base in their specific areas. Not a chance. So you have to be quite humble in that, I think, and yeah, trusting of your team.
Nice. No, I like that. So when it comes to sort of recruitment and growth and identifying people, I mean,
Mm.
did you go through, for example, say if you wanted to build on your SEO division, did you look for people who'd come from an agency background, who understood the kind of world of working in agency? How did you go about building a team and identifying, somebody who, like you said, is better than you, who could grow that part of the business?
Yeah. Well, SEO specifically was a more tricky one, because SEO was not my bag at all.
Mm,
I had no idea. Now I love it. It's like my
yeah.
favorite element of marketing. But when we hired for SEO in the first place, I didn't have a clue. So it was fairly easy to find people that knew more than me, because I didn't know anything. I was like, but generally speaking, I think I made a lot of mistakes. So the way I would say to other people to do it is try and learn from my mistakes, and don't do what I did. Because initially I was just like, right, we started hiring people straight out of university who had, like, maybe a social media degree or
Mm,
general marketing degree or that kind of thing. And we all work remotely. So before anyone comes at me, I'm not saying that don't hire people out of university, but what we found was they just didn't have the right level of experience in actually doing the job
sure.
to do the job. And because we all worked remotely, it was really difficult to train
Mm,
them. So we definitely then moved after that to people who had some experience working for an agency. We found if we hired people that had been internal elsewhere as well, not all, but quite often, agency life was too fast paced for them,
yeah.
and they really, really struggled. Was like, what do you mean I've got to, get 4 blogs out the door today? Yeah, sorry, mate.
Yeah.
Like, and you should be able to do that. Like, if you're a quality writer, that should come quite naturally to you. Like, but I think in the early doors, I'd be first to admit I was probably a little bit harsh, because I am very quick, and that is one of my skill sets. Like, I
Yeah.
learn things quickly, and I can bash stuff out in, you know, half an hour where someone else might take 2 or 3 hours. My expectations of people were probably too high as well. I have it since then. We've hired lots of people that are better than me at doing that,
Mm,
and can knock stuff up really quickly and still be really high quality and just know what they're doing, just because they're so good at what they do.
mm,
And also, we moved from being general marketeers. We would basically hire general marketeers who would look after a singular account, and they might run all the elements of that particular account as if they're a marketing manager internally. That worked for us early doors, but as we grew, it became very apparent that this isn't going to work on a bigger scale. You have to have specialists in each area. So we
mm,
swapped to that model, essentially. So every client had a specialist in whatever it was that they were working with us on. So if it was SEO, they had someone that only did SEO kind of day in, day out. And that definitely worked much better for us, and meant that the people that we hired were just ridiculously skilled in those particular fields, which just meant that we could deliver a better service. And obviously they enjoyed their jobs better, because when we had people doing, we had Brad, for example, joined us when we still had the old model, and his skill base is SEO, and he is phenomenal, best in the country by a mile, and I'm going to put that out there. He'll probably be embarrassed if he ever sees this, but it's true. He is so good at it. It's just
nice.
ridiculous. But when we first hired him, we were hiring marketing execs. So he was running a bit of social. He was doing, bit of PPC stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, he's good at PPC now as well because he's grown that skill base. But at the time, SEO was really his bag,
Yeah.
not design, not socials, not all of, anything else like that. It was SEO. Because of that, it meant some clients had a great service from an SEO perspective, but actually their socials were lacking. And so that's kind of why we swapped it. And he wouldn't mind me saying that. He knows he's crap at creative, but he's brilliant at everything else, so it's fine.
Yeah, of course. And I think that's exactly what an agency's for, isn't it? You go out to
Exactly.
somebody who lives and breathes, the kind of niche that they're in. But not only that, I think because I guess with an agency in particular, they've done it so many times for different brands, different companies, they've seen lots of businesses and transformed them. And I guess with internal, you are kind of in your own environment and learning from people. And I guess that's what an agency really needs. That's where the value comes from it, from using an agency partner, is somebody who's tried and tested an approach so many times and can help you do the same and bring success to your own business.
Yeah, and we do the same for ourselves. Well, I say we did when it was mine, and I'm sure they still do. But everything, particularly the team that do the performance marketing stuff, it's like, right, how we've got this great idea, we think this is going to work really well and deliver, great ROI, whatever it might be. Great, go and try it on our business. Let's see what happens. If it flops, it flops for us. It doesn't flop for our clients. So that's also the beauty of it. We don't mind testing stuff out, trying stuff, changing stuff around, and our sales drop for a few weeks. Well, who cares? We'll just pick them back up again.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, try it on your own site, own business, and see what works. Yeah. So when you left the business, what was the headcount of the business? How many people had you employed?
So we had 9 full-time, and then it's around 15 total with contractors. So we've got 3 full-time contractors working on a large project who are still there, and then a mixture of contractors we use for things like design if we got overloaded with design work, web development, that kind of stuff. Yeah, a
Nice.
fairish size for
brilliant. I mean, and like you say, in that kind of short space of time, and all these people are just experts in and niche down in what they know. It's then that's the beauty of it. Yeah, perfect. So I guess from your experience of building the agency and employing, what would you say were like, what was sort of, in the nicest way, the lowest time? What was the biggest struggle of running a business? And particularly COVID maybe was a bit of a buoyant time, but when you lose clients, when you lose accounts or people resign, what would you say was the hardest thing about running an agency?
So I would say it is people not paying their bills, which we had very few of, to be fair. Like, I spoke to someone recently who said they've got, nearly 100 grand's worth of unpaid invoices still hanging around. Luckily, we never got to that, but there were some pretty hairy times. We did some piece of work, and this is again a learning where I was like, right, payment up front for certain things, etc. And we changed the way that we invoiced and things like that. But we did a piece of work for a group of companies in Portsmouth. I won't name who they are, but let's just say they're arseholes. And this was early doors, so this was not long after Laura left. So we were still, basically had hired these people. So we were on the back foot already. I had to make sure that I was getting money through the door. Took on this contract, and they basically stiffed us for 23 grand. It was a lot of money anyway, but at that point was a significant amount of money. That's the investment I'd had in order to try and grow the business, hire these people, and all of a sudden that investment's basically gone. So plus 3 grand, bastards. And then on top of that, they'd paid their first invoice, and I've since learned that they do this to a lot of people.
Right.
So, but it was early doors, for me. Still a little naive person, like thinking everybody's nice and paid their bills on time. But then they also so they wrote to our bank saying that we'd falsely taken the money out of their account. So they tried to claim back the money that they'd already paid us.
Right.
Yeah. But they had everything. They had 5 websites off of us. They had social media management, even to the point where they were so new, we were doing things like their seating plans for their restaurant and stuff. Like,
Right.
I know, stupid stuff that you do when you first start, like when you're young business, you think, well, I just want the money, so I'll help out in any way I can for that client. But yeah, it was mad. So I'd say that's probably trying to manage that while still having to pay your team, wanting to do the right thing by by, suppliers, that kind of stuff, and still being positive and going after new business and that kind of thing is probably the hardest. Once you've kind of nailed that and you're stepping away from you being solely responsible for like sales or team management, the next hardest bit I would say is like people problems. I think that's probably the next bit. But I love it all, to be honest with you, because I am a sad bastard with stuff like that. Like I just enjoy business. So for me, it's like, yeah, it's hard, but it's a challenge to overcome, as opposed to oh god, right, I've just got to, I could have just thrown in the towel with, being owed 23 grand and it just looking like they were going to try and take another 12 grand off of us at the time. And I was just like, what is going on? But, push through. I was like, nah, it's fine. I can replace them with a better client with, and that's what we did. But yeah, I'd say that's probably the hardest thing. Is it is a stab in the heart when you've worked really hard for a client and you feel like you've done a really good job and then they just refuse to pay you.
Yeah.
And it happens way too much in the creative industries. Like it's a joke, really. It probably happens to you guys as well, right?
Oh yeah, I think we're quite lucky. It definitely depends on sort of industry we're in. I know that like engineering recruiters, there's actually a business that's been set up on the side of an agency in the local area, and their job is, essentially exploring how people get backdoor hired and doing the kind of legwork to make sure they get their invoice back, because things like that
fair enough.
And I think I always say this in the office that it is essentially agency world. It's a tough old game, whether it's recruitment or marketing. There's very similar principles. So I was going to say, what from that learning experience, how did that shape how you identify a proper, genuine, good client that you want to partner with? What were the warning signals, and what did you do differently when engaging with new businesses after that?
So weirdly with them was a different warning signal for the rest of them. When I look back on it now, the warning system with them is that no, there was no, like, money was no object. That's kind of how they behaved. Yeah, it's fine, we've got this and we've got that and we own all this and we do this. And I think just taking people's word for what they're going to do and how they're going to behave, rather than actually doing any due diligence on who they are, was definitely a downfall there. But for most people, I think you get those red flags, like particularly now, if anyone says to me, oh, well, my last agency was crap, we paid them 1,500 quid and we didn't get a single lead and blah, 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 blah. And then when you dig in, you're like, well, what was it you were paying them to do? Oh, well, they were running our social media for us and they were doing a bit of PPC and then they were doing some, I don't know, Facebook advertising, and they were doing some SEO for us. Oh, and they were writing blogs. Oh, and they were managing our events for us. And they come in twice a week to take photos. And you think, well, no fucking wonder. Do you know what I mean? These people, like, you're basically just paying an admin person at that point to collate your marketing collateral. That's not somebody actively, strategically marketing your business. It's a very different thing, right? Like, if you paid 1,500 quid to Rebellion, you'd get a service, and that service would be done well so that you got leads from that particular channel. Like, you wouldn't be getting 50 million different bits of services for that. That's crazy. So yeah, stuff like that where, or they'll be like, oh, there's another one that changed their website 3 or 4 times and then came to us and were like, oh, well, we just didn't like any of it. Well, it turned out that they'd basically just, they were the problem. Let's face it. So stuff like that. If they've churned through a lot of agencies, if they're bad mouthing agencies, if you find out they've refused to pay people in the past, that kind of thing, you kind of learn what the red flags are, I think, just from talking to them. But
I can resonate with a lot of what you've said as well. And like you say, it's just that sort of agency principle where, sometimes I think, I don't know how you find it, but I think people, if they're going to engage with an agency, it's initially getting that initial trust and, being like, no, you have to trust me if you want me to succeed your business and grow it.
Exactly that.
And I think there is definitely, people don't want to give the reins over to you and so on. They still want to keep that control. And that's certainly something that, and you need somebody who's going to say, I trust you to do what you say you're going to do, and I'm going to support you in every sense of the world. That. So I think there's a lot that can certainly resonate with that. But I think that's definitely, for anyone who's thinking of the joys of what you see on the face of running a digital agency, this is certainly...
Oh God, it's not joyous, no. Yeah. It's generally hard work.
I mean, how do you sort of build that sort of... I suppose that resilience, I guess. You've started a business in COVID, which for most people, that was the soul destroying part. The
Yeah.
resilience had gone at that point. But how do you, maintain that resilience in that agency culture and working with clients and people?
Yeah, well, do you know what? I don't actually know, if I'm honest. I just naturally just enjoy stuff and crack on. Like, I've always been quite a positive person.
Hmm.
I think for me, I always generally, if someone, like, doesn't pay a bill, or starts bad mouthing some of the team, or something, like, anything like that happen, my initial reaction is fucking wanker, and I get quite irate about it,
Yeah, yeah.
especially if it's an untruth. If it's true, if someone's, done a bad job, we've not done what we said we would do, or whatever, that's absolutely fair play, open to conversation. If you are just being an arsehole because you don't fundamentally understand marketing, or you're just trying to get as much work out of
Hmm.
people for as little money as possible, then that's a different story, and it makes me very cross. But
Hmm.
quickly I go, box that off. What positive things have we got going on? How can I turn this around to
Sure.
be a positive thing? Like, and generally speaking, if you think that way, I don't know, it's almost like the law of attraction, right? Things, if you think positive, you act positively, generally positive things begin to happen. But we quite often found that if we binned off a client because they were not particularly nice, or those red flags were coming up,
Hmm.
within a couple of weeks we'd have replaced them with a bigger client, usually within the same industry, almost like, oh, actually, this is same sort of thing we were doing, we can use our learnings from that, but it's a bigger client, better client, nicer people to work with, and all of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So it's, yeah, I think the only way to do it is box off the bits that are pissing you off.
Hmm.
Don't ignore them, brush them under the carpet, like, deal with them, but box it off in your brain. Right, what's next? What are we focusing on? What positive stuff is going to happen? And what positive impact can I have on whatever I want to happen? And sometimes you can't, but that's great. Move on to something that you can have a positive impact on. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
definitely. I mean, with like this whole sort of culture of like LinkedIn, like you said, people shouting about how well they're doing and so on. Did you ever
Yeah.
personally suffer like imposter syndrome? Seeing other people who on the surface probably made it
Yeah.
look easy. Like, we've got so many great clients, and then you're there tackling this, somebody who's being utter shit and thinking, why have they got all this glory?
Yeah.
How do you deal with things like that?
I think the easiest way to do it is remembering that most of it's bullshit.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, early doors, I definitely did have a bit more, how are they doing that? Like, what am I doing wrong that they're doing
Mm,
right? But it doesn't take a lot of digging usually to go, hang on a minute.
yeah.
So, even on things like Companies House, and one of the earliest ones is we took on someone from another agency who, in my head, were a really good agency, someone that I aspired to be like, achieving really good things, good, revenue streams coming through, blah, 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 blah. And then when they came on, they were like, oh my God, like, I would never ever work with them again. They're
Yeah.
awful. They treat their staff badly. They've got really high churn of people wanting to work with them, clients and stuff, like, they don't know what they're doing. And I was like, oh, okay. From that kind of moment onward, I was like, okay, most people are pretending that they're better than
Yeah.
they actually are, and we're all on our own journeys, like, it doesn't
Yeah.
actually matter. Even if, there's a lot of businesses local to me that offer exactly the same services as we do, they're not all gonna, not everyone's gonna match with them in terms of personality or culture, or exact skills that they're offering. It's not going to be right for a particular project. We might be right. So
Yeah.
there's loads of business out there for everybody. Even if you're offering exactly the same services, there's still plenty of business. And
Hmm.
I think pitching yourself against somebody else just ends up making yourself chase your own tail almost, and go, right, well, they're doing this, I better go and do that now. Oh,
Yeah.
they've done that, I'm going to go and do that. Well, you don't need to do that. Just focus on your own goals, what you want to achieve, your own clients, your own team, and making it the best that you can. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, particularly as well, starting an agency in those early days, and I see so much stuff on LinkedIn as well where people are saying, I do 80-hour weeks, I wake up at 5 o'clock, I'm hitting the phone at 7 o'clock. I mean, just to really sort of create a glass door of, if you're going to
Mhm.
start an agency and build that kind of, you want to build a business and bring in people, what would someone who wants to be successful, what should be like the minimum kind of expectations be on to really grow that business in those early days and maintain it?
Yeah. This might be a controversial, shocking thing. I don't know. Maybe not. Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, mate.
Yeah. Keep
Yeah,
it simple.
like keep it simple. When it got bigger and I had some problems with staff, and this is why team I think is so important and
Mm,
hiring correctly is so important. Then I was probably doing evenings, weekends for a
yeah.
period, but that was probably through year 4 while I was sorting out it's basically process issues within the team. That's really the issue. So there was bottlenecks and I ended up picking up workload because there was something happening. And then I got so enthralled in what I was doing, engrossed in what I was doing, I was struggling to see the bigger picture and where the bottlenecks were and what the problems were causing. I couldn't understand why we hadn't grown in terms of client base, but the workload seemed to have increased massively.
Mm,
And so during that time period, it needed a lot of work. But when, from the year 1 to up until that point, so for the first 3 to 4 years, I worked Monday, Friday, 9 to 5, basically.
yeah.
I didn't overstretch myself. I had 3 children as well,
Yeah.
so I had to look after my kids, do the school run, all of that jazz. So there was no way that I could work any more than that. I was
Yeah.
cooking dinners and going to parents' evenings and all of this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's an absolute fallacy that you've got to work 80 hours a week to be successful. It's just bollocks. You
Yeah.
absolutely don't. Just be strategic with your time. Make sure you're doing the right things at the right
Mm,
time. Don't get bogged down with it's not really
yeah.
necessary, and go for the growth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's something I did want to sort of cover. Obviously, like you say, raising a family whilst raising a
Yeah.
business. I mean, yeah, I can't. I've only got a 1 year old. I can't even imagine how that must be. 3 kids to all at different stages, younger to
Yeah.
teenager. How you manage that whilst growing a business. Did you ever sort of experience those kind of personal costs of running a business to your sort of personal life and raising a family and the time it's
Yeah.
taking?
Again, definitely in that 4th year where everything just seemed to go wrong. Everything that could go wrong seemed to go wrong that year.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Like I was working weekends. I wanted to be with the kids more, do more with them, and I felt like I was definitely missing out. But up
Mm,
until that point, probably not. I was still doing 3 or 4 holidays a year. Had quite most of the summer not off. That's the wrong way, but we would go away, take the kids away for a couple of weeks,
yeah.
and I might open my emails up and work maybe 6 till 9 in the morning or whatever while they were, still asleep generally because 2 of them are teenagers
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. But no, I don't think I ever really felt like I was missing out, and I don't think they did either until that 4th year.
Yeah.
And in that 4th year, I was like, oh god, if I can sell this, this is ridiculous. Like I wanted out at that point,
Yeah.
but we managed to get through it, powered on through,
Yeah.
sorted out the problems. It felt like it was hard slog that year, but we got there. And so you do have to be prepared that that might happen, particularly if you grow quickly. Like if you grow quickly, it sounds great on paper, but that problems come with that, and it generally does tend to be those process issues
Mm.
because there's nothing, often you don't have the processes for the work that's coming through because you've not dealt with it before, so you're trying to build processes, build a team whilst building a business. It's a nice problem to have, I think, for
Yeah.
most, but the leads were just coming through thick and fast and
Nice.
businesses coming on constantly, and that was stressful, very stressful.
Mm.
I think if I was going to go back, like in the end, it's worked out all right, right? I sorted out all the
Yeah.
issues, got to a point where the team were happy, I was happy, I was able to step back again more into the more sales and strategic role for the business, and that was all good. But if I was going to do it again, I'd probably try and slow down that growth a bit during that year and be a bit more content with what was coming through rather than pushing
Yeah.
for more sales, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. No, brilliant. No, I think it's like you say, it's a nice problem to have, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's some people, I think, particularly businesses, the opposite. It's like, right, how am I going to get those leads? But at the same time,
Yeah.
once you've struck gold, manage it carefully and
Yeah.
be mindful of how you grow and how you manage your time, and just
Yeah.
don't fall for the whole, or you've got to do 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Just manage it resourcefully, and don't
Yeah.
yeah don't don't burn yourself out too soon, really. So that's it.
Exactly.
So at what point, when did selling Rebellion become a real option for you? What was the sort of driving force to think now's the time to sell the business?
Yeah. Well, basically, I got ill, didn't I? So
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. So I was in, as I said, the year 4. I'd kind of gone, this is shit. So I was
Yeah.
like, I need to get out of this. It was so stressful. There was a particular week where we'd we were going to France for the week. I won't name drop, but there's a whole loads of things that happened, and this particular individual decided, knowing full well we were going away for a week, the first holiday I'd had all year, and I was very stressed, decided to basically quit at 4 o'clock on the Friday, knowing full well I was going to France the next day.
Right.
And that person that earlier that week had sacked another member of staff. And at the time, I'd said to her, don't do it because it's middle of August, team are on holiday. That person does quite a lot of and that work's going to have to fall to you because there's nobody else. And I don't think that you are in a position to be able to cope with that workload right now. If you really think that that person's not right for the team, let's discuss it in September. Let's see how it's going. And at that point, we either have the conversation that they need to, sort themselves out, or they go and then we can hire somebody to replace them. But no, I'm not happy. They're going. Okay, you're the manager, over to you. So that's what they did. And then literally that was like the Monday, and then the Friday they quit. And I was like, great. So that's two people's jobs that I now have to do while
you're
I'm
in
in
holiday.
France. I was like, for fuck's sake. So yeah, so that was when I was like, no, this has got to stop. I can't cope with this anymore. I was having heart palpitations. It was just awful. Like, it
Yeah.
was just horrific. So much work, and I was already very busy anyway because of everything that had, been going on that year, and all the changes and all the leads coming through the door and new clients coming on. It was just very stressful already, and then on top of that, I suddenly found myself back in delivery, writing blogs and checking PPC accounts and
Yeah.
running social media, and I was like, fuck this shit. So
Yeah. That's not what you signed up for.
I was like, no. And I don't get me wrong, I didn't mind doing that, but you cannot physically do that and run the business finances, run the team, like
Yeah.
run everything. Like, you just cannot do it. So, and onboard new clients, and yeah, I was just like, no. So yeah, we'd had actually we'd put it on the market at that point. So that was year 4, and had quite a bit of interest, but things kind of settled down. I started to sort stuff out, and then we took it off the market, which was actually, so at that point we were offered 350,000 for the
Wow.
business.
Okay.
So that was year 4. And I was like, I think it's worth more than that. I think I can
Mm.
get it to a point. And then there was also a couple of people like, oh, actually, we'll give you a bit more, but we'll give you more if you stay for 2 years and help us get it to this level of revenue. And I
Mm.
was like, but if it was at that level of revenue, the business would be worth that much more. So I'm going to help you grow it, but not reap the rewards of helping you grow it. Why would
Yeah.
I do that? So we decided to take it off the market. I was like, no, I'm not selling it for that. It's not, it's not enough. So kind of went back to it. And then year 5, which basically was year before last, I was like, right, full steam ahead, let's go. And then we kind of grew it again, and basically did what we said we were going to do, or what the other people wanted us to do, in order for them to give us a little bit extra. So
Yeah.
grew it. And then in June last year, I got the random call to say, yeah, this is her. I don't know how I'm talking about this and not completely traumatized. I think I am probably traumatized, still not processed it. But basically, there was nothing wrong with me at all. I went to the doctors because I was getting pain in my neck that was causing some headaches. It turns out separately that was being caused by, I was lifting quite heavy weights at the gym, like on the barbell, squatting with weights. And basically, I'd kept getting a trapped nerve in the back of my neck.
Mm.
And the specialist at the time said to me, look, stop doing that, because duh. Stop
Yeah.
lifting those heavy weights like that. Don't put anything across the back of your neck when you're weightlifting. And you set your desk up with a proper ergonomic setup and all of that kind of jazz, and you should find that it stops.
Mm.
And it did. Everything just completely went. No headaches, no nothing. I was fine. In the interim, my GP had gone, I'll tell you what, I'll send you for a head scan just to be on the safe
Mm.
side. So by the time this rolled around, it was sort of April time, and I went along to this scan and was like, oh, I feel a bit of a fraud now because I'm all right. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with me. So yeah, I went along, come out of the scan, was that, kind of forgot all about it really, and then it was the end of June. So more than 2 months after I'd been for the scan, I just got a call from QA from a doctor down there, and her words were, I normally wouldn't do this, but I'm going on annual leave tomorrow, and so I thought you just better know that you've got a brain tumor. On the phone, I was just
Wow.
like, what the fuck do you even do with that information? Like, I was just like, what? But how
On the
can that
phone.
be correct? Like, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. Like,
Yeah.
what? Yeah, and over the phone, which they're not supposed to do,
No.
obviously. So I just sort of, hung up, and I was like, what the fuck? My husband rang her back and, sorted out. Ended up going to being referred to Southampton neuro department. But I went there about a couple of weeks later. So by this time it was July, and they were like, "Yeah, this is what we think you've got." But at this point, he said it's one of three things potentially. It could be what they call a diffuse midline glioma, which is a really aggressive brain tumor, normally found in children, which is really sad, very rare in adults. And basically, like, if it's that, you would have months to live, basically. So it could be that, it could be an infection, or it could be swelling in your brain. So I was like, right, okay. None of those three things sound particularly delightful, but
No.
anyway. So like, we want to do a biopsy to figure it out, find out what it is. So that's what they did. So I had the biopsy. That was August 21st. Woke up from that absolutely fucked, basically.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be straight in, straight out, half an hour job, no issues, no real risk, no nothing. And everyone else, there was four of us that went in and had the same thing done on the same day. Everyone else went home that afternoon, absolutely fine. I woke up, no control of my eyes, left
God.
facial palsy, so I couldn't move my left side of my face at all. Couldn't feel the right side of my leg, deaf in my left ear. It was horrific, throwing up all the time because my eyes literally, I look like one of those cartoons, when they hit them over the head and their eyes go like
Yeah.
that. It was like that. Literally
Oh,
couldn't
God.
control them. It was bad. So I was in there for like 9 days. By the time I was let out, I could just about walk aided. And then I've just kind of been on recovery since then. I'm still not quite right on my left side of my face, but anyway. So then I had my appointment with my oncologist in the September, the second week of September, and she was like, right, your results are back. It is a brain tumor. Basically, it's the diffuse midline glioma. Pretty much you're going to be dead by Christmas. Like, you need to go and sort out your affairs, sort your children out, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And I was like, fuck. But what I didn't realize at the time was that brain tumor, or I think any tumor, I'm not sure, the way they test it and the results come back is in stages. So you get like the first stage is just an indication of, oh yes, it's a tumor or whatever,
Yeah.
not the full results. So I didn't know that. I was just like, fuck, I'm dead, basically, because that's what
Yeah.
she said, right? That's what they've been telling me this whole
And they're the
time.
experts, right? You listen to an expert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, fucking hell. So then I went back. She was like, come back in a couple of weeks' time. We'll discuss treatment plans and blah, 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 blah. So I was like, right, fine. So I went back 2 weeks after. And I said to her at the time, I was like, look, if I've only got a few months to live, I don't want treatment. I don't want chemo. I don't want radiotherapy. Why would I want to live my life, the last few months of my life, in pain? Like, there's fuck all else wrong with me. Like, I'm fine. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to then make myself ill for whatever time I've got left. Yeah, but I went back and then walked into the room, sat down. She went, "Oh, good news. Is it? Is there good news?" Right. I was like, "Is it gone? Is it? Is it magically disappeared?"
Yeah.
She's like, "No, but it's not the diffuse midline glioma. It's an astrocytoma, which is still a brain tumor, still inoperable, still terminal, but it should have years rather
Yeah.
than months." But during that kind of period, I'd already made the decision to sell the business because I
Yeah.
thought, we've got something really good here. It's a really good business. The team were at that point, it was running on its own anyway, because I'd been off like for 2 months anyway. So
Sure.
pretty much as soon as I got that call from the hospital, I was just like, what the fuck? So stopped really working. I was doing little bits and bobs, but I was like, I cannot mentally cope with anything else coming at me. Like, I just need to focus
No.
on getting through the next few months, and then I can make decisions from there. So the team were already sort of running it. Had two people, who Chloe and Katie, who were managing the business, essentially doing account management, the finance type stuff. Andy was doing bits and bobs in terms of invoicing. So other than that, it was running pretty well without me. So I was like, look, let's sell it while it's in a good shape. Let
Sure.
someone else take it on and really fly with it, because it's still in growth mode. It was still doing really well. There's lots of potential with it, like all of that. So, and I thought, do you know what, actually, if we didn't do anything with it, it had the potential to just collapse into nothingness.
Yeah.
Not that the team are rubbish, but it didn't have anyone at the helm to go, right, this is where we want to go with it. This is the strategy. They were working on the day to day and making sure it ran well and all of that kind of stuff, which was great. But it was never going to grow in that state. So I was like, I want it to grow. I want them to have good opportunities. I want them to, be able to do what they want, develop their careers and all of that kind of good stuff. So yeah. And also I thought, if I don't sell it and something does happen to me, that's on Andy's shoulders to
Yeah.
sell it and go through all that stress and pressure on his own. And I thought,
Yeah.
if your wife's just died, you're not really going to be wanting to focus on that. So I was like, right, let's just sell it and make
Sure.
sure it's in a good place. So yeah, that's what we did. And we got 11 interested parties, which was really cool. I was amazed. I was like, how have I managed to go from nothing, no money whatsoever, little old me and Laura sitting in our,
Yeah.
front rooms, to this in essentially, what was 3 years, where we went from essentially freelancing to growing to a 1.5 million pound turnover business. So yeah, it was all good. So
Yeah.
that's where we're at with it. Then I got really bored, and I was like, right, I'm just going to chill out. I'm going to just do whatever I want. But my kids are older now, so one's at university, one's working full time, and then my youngest is at school all the time. So I was like, a bit bored now. So
You thought I'll have a
so
nice quiet life and
yeah.
I've sold the business. I'm stress free.
Yeah.
Yeah, you thought I've walked away. I've made the sale, and then what did
Yeah.
you decide to do?
And then I'll tell you what, I fancy a bit more stress, so I'll start another business. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you're an
yeah, so
absolute
that's what I've done.
legend. Yeah, but
Yeah.
no, honestly, you really do amaze me. The number of people who pull a sickie because they've stubbed their toe and all sorts, and there's you
Yeah.
who's gone through the stress, the highs and lows. You've got a brain tumor, and you think, do you know what'd be a really good idea?
Yeah.
Starting another.
Go again.
Go
Fuck it.
again. I love it. I really, honestly, it's really inspiring. Like and it is walking away from your baby. Like you say, it's something you've built and you've crafted, and
Yeah.
you want, and it shows that you care about it and they care about the people that you've built
Mhm.
around it and the clients and the reputation. And I love that you want
Yeah.
to see it taken care of. But I guess so now that you've obviously you made the sale official earlier this year. But tell us about the Marketing Rebels. What is this
Yeah.
venture that is I suppose infused you to do it all again, really?
Yeah, well, so I mentioned way back in the start of this conversation about running an apprenticeship business and then working for another apprenticeship provider. Back in the day, it seems like such a long time ago now. But that's something that I'm still quite passionate about. And the whole time I was running Rebellion, like, I always wanted to push for, we had people doing apprenticeships, we had people doing different courses. Every time we did anything, it was all about, okay, how can we learn more, deliver more learning to the team? Like, what do they want to learn? Where do they want to see their careers develop? So it's still a really big passion of mine, like teaching, training, imparting knowledge on others and seeing them be successful is something that I've always really loved to do. And obviously I love marketing because, as we've established, I'm a sado. The idea essentially is combining the two things that I really love and
Yes.
making a new business out of that. So the business essentially aimed at people looking to change their careers, move into a marketing role, or upskill that they're
Yeah.
in roles that they're already in. It's aimed at internal marketeers, agency marketeers, and also we'll be creating the courses to fit with the apprenticeships as well. So apprenticeship providers will be able to use us for the knowledge aspect of the delivery, meaning that they are having to rely less on skilled marketing professionals, because it's quite expensive to hire a skilled marketing
Yeah.
professional to deliver training. So actually they can have pastoral trainers and do all the knowledge stuff through us instead. And everything's going to be written, or is being written, should I say, by people that are actually doing the job right now, day in, day out. So it's current, it's actual knowledge. It's not wishy-washy crap that you might do at college. No offense. A lot of it we've found, particularly when we've worked with people that have come fresh out of uni, or wherever it might be, is that what they learn is so high level and so generic that actually when you say, okay, well, let's get into nitty gritty, we need to build this strategy for this client, what do they need? They just haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
Half of them don't even know what PPC is or SEO is. They just don't know. They know basically how Coca-Cola's last advert didn't resonate well with
Yeah.
Indian audience. That's what they can tell you. And it's like, that's great, but that's not going to help,
Yeah.
do your day-to-day job. You need to learn how
Sure.
to write for a purpose and all of this kind of thing. You need to understand how to manage a PPC campaign, or what ROI looks like, how to interpret data. Like, all of these skills are what you need. You do not need to go, that color worked better for McDonald's because, it builds trust or something.
Yeah.
That's great, but that's not going to help you day to day
McDonald's aren't
grow
going to
your
come to
career.
you and, unless you're going to go work
No.
for McDonald's, or McDonald's aren't
Yeah.
likely to go to your agency.
Exactly. And even then, if you're fresh out of uni, what is the likelihood of a big brand going, do you know what? You can come and do my strategy for my entire worldwide business. I mean, it's like zero
Yeah.
to, I mean, those jobs are like, the head of marketing at Coca-Cola. There's very few jobs that are
Yeah.
like that, right? For big corporate businesses where you're the head of. There's so few jobs like that in the world. And then you're also one of millions of people that are
Yeah.
doing marketing degrees. So the likelihood is you're going to go and work for an SME who is looking to help grow their business through inbound lead
Yeah.
generation. That's it, really. So you need to learn the skills to do that. So that's really the premise of the business is, right, let's give people the skills they really need and fill those skills gaps. Support agencies and internal teams with actually giving people the skills they need to run and do the job properly, rather than, hopefully get rid of this, keep hiring people, they don't know what they're doing, hire someone else, they don't know
Yeah.
what they're doing, hire someone else, or they're good at that, but they don't really know anything about that. So that's kind of the premise of the business. I'm very excited to launch it, to
Yeah.
be fair.
I love it. No, I think like you said, there's too many. It's one that people can read the manual of how to do something, but there's reading the
Yeah,
manual and describing how to do something versus that real life experience.
actually doing it.
And
Yeah,
I always think it's so important that more businesses do really need to. And I know it can maybe a bit costly, but at the same time, life changing. If you can give people those
yeah,
stepping stones in the actual real life experience to get them going. And and I hate to say, I do feel there is a little bit of a culture maybe to people who've gone to uni who expect everything to be given to them on a plate and expect success to happen. But
yeah,
you really need to understand that, take a bit of humble pie, really learn, but getting that opportunity, that combined with
yeah,
somebody giving you that chance to grow
yeah,
and really learn, the highs and lows of what it takes to work in marketing, the real
absolutely.
scope of it. Yeah, yeah, brilliant.
Completely agree. Yeah. So hopefully we'll do that.
Yeah, brilliant. So I guess now that you can sort of reflect on the journey you went on with building up Rebellion Marketing to now going again, if I was to say,
Mhm.
think about if you could go back to a conversation you could have with year 2 of Rebellion Jade, what, and knowing where you were going to be, say 5-6 years time in the future, what would you tell, year 2 Jade when things were kicking off and being in a
Yeah.
similar position to where you are now? What advice would you give to her now?
Probably keep going, keep your head up, focus on what's working. Bin off all the shit that you shouldn't be doing. I spent a lot of time doing crap that I really shouldn't be doing. Yeah, I spent way too much time doing, like, I don't know, going to meetings that I knew were never going to go anywhere,
Yeah.
And yes, it is nice to go and meet with people and chat to people, but make that few and far between. Make sure it's the right kind of people, the right sort of network, the
Mm,
right sort of connections. You can't be everything to all people
sure.
all at once. So focus on the things that are important for growth. Focus on the things that work. Keep plowing ahead. That's probably
Mm.
what I'd tell myself, and try not to have a heart attack in the process.
And I guess everything that you've learned from building the last business, you can apply that forward again in this
Yeah.
next business venture. So yeah, I'll have to come back and we'll do another interview in a
Yeah.
year's time and be like, did
Yeah.
you do any of what I said?
Yeah. Probably
Well,
not.
I've learned a whole ton of extra stuff about,
Yeah. Probably.
yeah, I love
Well, I
it. So,
think this is definitely going to be a learning curve, because we decided in my infinite wisdom, not only am I just, launching courses, rather than going and use something that's already out there in the market to
yeah.
host my courses, we're having a platform built from scratch.
Mm,
So that's already a learning curve for me. So we've done lots of website builds and that kind of thing, but we're really trying to integrate AI into a lot of this, building our own structures and building our own platforms so that we can white label in the future. And also, when I want a piece of development work doing, or I have a really good idea for something that I think could work, I can go to my developers and go, right, let's get that done. Rather than, or if you submit it, we might build it into the roadmap, and then in
mm,
2 years' time, you might get the feature that you asked for, but unlikely. So we're going down that road as well. So this time round, not starting with no money either. So we'll see how that goes. I'll probably
Yeah.
just spend it all and end up poor and with no return on investment. But fuck it, let's give it a
Why
go.
not?
See what happens.
Yeah, definitely. No, I love it. I think it's going to be exciting to see how this new venture sort of grows, and yeah, like I say, in a year's
Yeah.
time, where the difference will be, and once you've officially launched and get off the ground, it's
Yeah.
really exciting. So, but I guess sort of now you can sort of look back and reflect on everything. Being an agency founder, there's hopefully people listening to this who've maybe thought, I could start my own agency. How hard can it be? It looks easy, or I don't know, or may be hesitant to. It could be the opposite. They're thinking, I wouldn't mind launching an agency or building my own company, but it looks too hard and scary, and money and clients and unpaid invoices, all those things. What piece of advice would you give to anyone and who is thinking about launching that agency?
Couple of pieces. I think early doors, I would have probably been better off keeping a regular income whilst I started the business. However, it depends on how motivated you are yourself. If you're really motivated to go out and get those sales, then that pressure of shit, I've got no money coming through the door, I need to go do it, might be helpful.
Yeah.
If you're not that person and you prefer to, or you need that regular income and you don't want to go, all at it and to get the sales through the door, and you want a bit more of a, focus on growing processes and stuff first, then keep a job, even if it's only like a couple of days a week, just to tide you over with some income while you grow it.
Sure.
Then I would say do that. If you've got loads of money to invest, then fuck it, just go for it. Yeah,
Wholeheartedly, yeah.
just go for it. But yeah, I'd say that the hardest bit, the setting up the business, is not hard. That's the easy bit. And actually getting processes in place and deciding what you want to want, all of that is the fun, easy bit. The bit
Yeah.
that's hard is going out there and grafting and getting the sales through the door. That's the bit that you need to focus on. And I think that's where I see people fail. They just don't go at it enough they think the sales and leads are just going to come to them. And they won't, unless you're really good at marketing, obviously, which hopefully you are if you're offering marketing services. But unless you're really good at inbound lead generation, it's not going to just fall off a tree and land in your lap. You've got to go out there and, go at it. Take every opportunity you can. Go on podcasts, go and meet people, go to events, go to free stuff. If you can afford it, go and get a stand somewhere, meet people, get yourself on LinkedIn, do all of the things and actively create sales for yourself every single day, because that's the only way that you will grow.
Definitely, yeah. So build that personal brand, get that brand out there, and drive it. Because people aren't going to know who you are. You've got to get out there and do it. Amazing, brilliant. So yeah, I think that's more or less covered everything. I think your kind of career journey.
I've rabbited it on for enough now.
No, I think it's great. It's a real sort of story of so many kind of just everything covered. Really, it's so much going on in a short space of time, and that it's filled with like plenty of messages there to somebody who's going to potentially consider launching that agency, and what it really takes, and maybe also for some people have a bit of a think when you're if your boss is having a bit of a stressy day, what's going on in their world, really. There's a lot that people don't see, but no, I really appreciate your time to share this journey, and we're really looking forward to seeing what the future holds with Marketing Rebels.
Hopefully a lot.
Yeah, definitely will be. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.